name is Audrey Williams. For today, now you must have all heard about EVs, about Project eDrive. I'm sorry, of course you know about EVs. You all drive one. But I'm sure you've heard about Project eDrive by now. Okay, that is the correct answer. Project eDrive is an IDB lab and JPS funded project executed by the JPS Foundation, which aims to help build a sustainable electric mobility sector. And that is a mouthful, but what it pretty much means is we're here to facilitate the growth of the electric vehicle sector in Jamaica as we prepare to transition to electric vehicles. Now I'd like to welcome you all very much, but I am going to point to a few persons. We're very glad. We know that some of them are not here yet because we didn't see a few empty chairs, but we are going to welcome them in their absence. President of the Insurance Association of Jamaica, Orville Johnson, member of the Jamaica EV Association and CEO of Tropical Mobility, Oliver Hill. Welcome also to member of GIVA and founder of Plug-in Jamaica, Donahue Kalash. Representatives of the automotive dealers, insurance, safety and training sectors. I see a lot of familiar faces. I feel very much at home. Hi, familiar face. Members of the media, welcome. Members of the Project eDrive support team, welcome. And of course, a very warm welcome to the stars of today's show, our panelists. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about them in just a moment, but I'll just tell you who they are. Shaluk Richards of GK General Insurance, Jamalda Stanford Brown of General Accident Insurance, Kevin Horton of Jamaica Fire Brigade, and Eric Nelson of the Heart Trust NSTA. I believe I've seen you once or twice, or 10 times. All of you here in person and online, welcome, welcome. We're a part of a very important public education discourse. Alrighty, so EVs are the future, and the future is now. So, joining us to evaluate the Jamaican insurance and safety landscape are 5 panelists from the insurance and safety industry. And when I call your name and introduce you, I will ask you to have a seat up here. I understand that that seat is reserved for moi. So, allow me to introduce to you Shaluk Richards, General Manager, GK General Insurance. Shaluk is an experienced senior manager with a demonstrated history of working in the insurance industry. He leads GK Insurance, which is well regarded for its comprehensive and innovative coverage solutions, including EV coverage. Welcome, Shaluk. This is where you clap. This is where you clap. And welcome, Jamalda Stanford Brown, Business Development Officer, General Accident Insurance. Jamalda is a risk and insurance professional with JANAC, which offers a range of policies, including EV coverage and property coverage for homes and businesses with charging stations. Welcome, Jamalda. Big clap, yeah. Kevin Horton is Deputy Commissioner of the Fire and Rescue Operations Jamaica Fire Brigade. Deputy Commissioner Horton has nearly 3 decades with the brigade and facilitated the training of over 60 firefighters as first responders to accident damaged or broken down electric and hybrid vehicles. Please welcome the Deputy Commissioner. It's getting hot in here. Eric Nelson, Director Principal of the TVET Engineering Cluster, Heart NSTA Trust. He is a valued stakeholder along with the Heart NSTA Trust that administers not 1, not 2, but 3 electric vehicle training programs with in-demand skills to support electric vehicle usage. Welcome, Eric. Welcome, welcome. And Jason Quarone, After Sales Manager at ATL Oxford Road. Jason is a multifaceted professional with both technical and managerial experience in the automotive industry. He represents ATL Automotive, which has the largest range of EVs available for sale. Please give our esteemed panel a round of applause. Fabulous. Now, during this session, we are going to discuss EV insurance requirements and options, fire safety tips and strategies, first responder support, maintenance and warranty, and lots more. And we'll be responding to your questions online as well using the hashtag EVs Unplugged. Post your questions on our Instagram page, which is eDrive Jamaica. eDrive JA, or on our Facebook page at eDrive Jamaica. So we look forward to hearing from you out there in internet land, and to you who are here, you are not silent participators. You are going to be very involved. Did you hear me? Okay. 2 people heard me. I am elated. All right, so you're going to be very involved. Let's start off. I'm going to have me a seat. Oh, they saved the middle one for me. That's so cool. Okay. Hi, guys and girl. All righty, let's start off with Jason on the topic of growth of the electric vehicle market. How would you say the growth in the EV market is changing the automotive landscape in Jamaica?
So the automotive sector is growing exponentially when it comes to EV. Not only from countries wanting to be environmentally wise, but just the market in general all across the world. It's taking off exponentially and growing exponentially. All the manufacturers, their plans are by 2030 to be a huge percentage of all their models EV. ATL has got a big push to help with the infrastructure, help with the training, bring the right vehicles in. We're in collaboration with a lot of people in this room. It's the way of the future. And it's growing in leaps and bounds. And I think we all need to have these discussions and get on the same page and accommodate for it, because that's where everything is going, even from a manufacturer perspective.
Right. And I know it's very, very new in Jamaica. What has the response been like that you've seen so far?
So far, there's a very positive response. Obviously, we were bringing in hybrids previously. There was a good response on that. And that was the segue into full EV. Now we're bringing in full EV brands. And now the current brands that we have are looking to bring in full EV as a majority of their models that are coming in.
Okay.
So it's within the next 5 years, it's just going to grow exponentially.
Wow. And people are seeing the hybrid as the stepping stone to EVs. They're not going straight EVs. They're seeing a lot more hybrid then.
We had a lot of hybrid sales to date. And a lot of those customers are now inquiring about full EV because they've seen the benefits of it.
Okay.
And with the infrastructure growing, with range anxiety becoming less and less because the ranges are getting better and better. The manufacturers are getting better and better with what they're doing. We're seeing more and more people coming onto it. As everybody knows, we've taken on BYD as a brand.
Right.
And we're getting a lot of calls and feedback. And we'll be launching it soon officially. So there's a lot of interest and a lot of people are interested in it.
Okay, great. Does anybody else want to add to that in terms of what you're seeing in the market? Are you getting any kind of pickup, any response to that from the insurance side of it?
Sure. You hear me?
Yes.
Oh, right. So basically, as said, there is a general interest and an increase in interest that you're seeing in EV. We do get a number of our customers reaching out to ensure that they have the ability to get insurance for EV, and they're looking into that area, primarily because there is also a perception, and that's, I guess we'll also have to work that through, but there's a general feel and sense that the overall cost of ownership is less. And so over the long haul, it is sensed that this is better, or a better alternative. And so there's a general increase in interest that you're seeing that is also fueling the growth. And we see a number of our partners who are now looking into EV as a distribution model or
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Did you want to add to that?
Oh, yeah, I think both of these gentlemen did a good job of explaining where it's going. For general accident, we noticed for a while now that this was the direction that the island was going. And what we've noticed is, if you see what's happening as far as the government incentivizing the expansion of EV products and moving away from internal combustion engines or fuel dependence, this will be the direction that we're going. We tried our best to be ready for this. We brought out a product, eDrive, which is standing in support of electric vehicles, and it has taken off quite well. And we've seen the pickup both in our existing customers switching over and, as Luke said, the interest in the market and the questions coming in.
Okay, all right, great. So the way of the future is definitely here. The next question I had really was talking to the fact that manufacturers are saying they're actually phasing out internal combustion engine vehicles. And I was going to ask, why is that happening and what does it mean for car drivers? I mean, it's kind of obvious what it means for us. We won't have any more internal combustion engine vehicles, is what it will mean. Why is this happening? Is this just purely all about being green and clean? Is that what this is about?
Yeah, it's that's part of it, and a major part of it, because already pre-EV vehicles were eco-friendly, that they could be broken down to a certain percentage, and the manufacturers want to be environmentally friendly and provide, because they've seen where it's going. But I think it's just a natural progression with all the benefits. It's a natural progression on where automotive is going to start heading. I mean, there's going to be the petrol heads that love the old gas engines. That'll always be there, but they will become classics and collectors, and that's the way the world is moving.
Yeah.
You can with technology growing, we can get more and more out of electric with having the benefits of being environmentally friendly. And I think the manufacturers have seen that and seen that that is the way of the future, and they're adjusting to it.
All right, great. Thank you for that. And some of the benefits, I don't know if you want to just give us a quick snapshot of some of the benefits of driving electric as opposed to internal combustion engines.
Just from the general benefits for the person on the street that's got the vehicle, simply maintenance and service. Maintenance and service now is extended because you don't have all these additional components that you would have in a combustion engine that are susceptible to that combustion process. So the service criteria and the time frame on the servicing changes. Just to give an example, on some of the EVs, your brake pads are predicted to last between 80 and 100,000 kilometers. Now that changes things from a personal aspect exponentially, whereas generally you could be servicing a vehicle and paying for brake pads every between 20 and 30,000 kilometers, now 80,000 kilometers. So that brake dust from an environmental, that's reduced. From a personal perspective, the upkeep costs on an EV are now reduced. So all of these are benefits. Obviously, once EV comes full into play, the electrical manufacturers, there'll start being packages, not similar to cell phone packages and data packages, because this will now become the way of it. So it'll become exponentially cheaper. So all around, it's beneficial to everybody.
Yeah, I understand. Right now, as it is, it's about 30% less to operate your EV in terms of fueling it. At present electrical prices, it's 30% less than going to your gas station.
That's it. And it's at the comfort of your home. And now with JPS and Evergrow and other people in the business, the infrastructure for charging is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger across the island. I mean, as it is, there's already huge coverage with regards to charging stations and charging ports across the island. So it's just becoming easier and easier and easier. As I said, the range anxiety is now getting less and less and less, with the manufacturers coming in at a 400 to 500 kilometer range on one charge.
Yeah. And also the servicing requirements, as I understand it, the internal combustion engines have, please don't quote me, like over 2,000 parts. Is there anybody who can, no? It's fine. We're going to just work with my number. Like over 2,000 parts compared to the EV, which has a fraction of that. I think maybe like 10% of that number. So whereas you'd be changing parts every how often and so on, that's just not even a factor for the EVs. So yes. Alrighty. We're going to get into the business of insurance in a little bit. The unique insurance considerations for EVs. First of all, do they have unique insurance considerations? Why would you have to make a EV insurance package? Why can't a person just come in and, yeah, I'm just insuring my car. It happens to be electrical. What's so special?
So I could start. So the reality is that with EV, there are nuances. The same point that you made earlier, right? Just the nature of the components. The fact of the matter is that the battery is a unique component, and the risks associated with that is different. Our approach to EV generally, however, is not to make a product that is too specialized around it, because the reality is that it's a car. When it comes down to it, it's a car. There are risk components that we need to bear in mind and changes that we need to make. We spoke about the fact the battery and the risk associated with that. There are risks associated with when they're being charged and when it's connected to a private charging port versus a public charging port, and those are things that we have to consider. So those are some of the factors that we would naturally take into consideration when creating a pricing around EV insurance, let's say as against a product for EV insurance, because a number of the liability exposure is the same, right? Your risk while you're on the road is the same. And so what we have to do is to identify what are some of those unique things, and as I mentioned a few of them already, that we then factor into our own calculation when assessing the pricing around EV insurance.
Okay, sure. Go ahead, Jamada.
Yes. Agreed. When we talk about these things that are specific to driving electric vehicles, well, first I want to say one of the biggest things with motor is, unlike regular asset insurance, the key component in pricing is actually the individual. So it's not necessarily the vehicle they're driving themselves. That is very important, but it's almost secondary. What we notice with the EVs is you are going to have different components, and that will factor in. But when we consider pricing, we need to consider the fact that the EV ecosystem is new. And when we price a product to sell, to insure a risk, we're pricing the back end of that, which is the claim and our ability to service the claim and get you back running as soon as possible. Now, we know internal combustion engines, that ecosystem is completely built out. The valuators know what to do. The repairman, you can go to the new car dealer to repair. You can go to the guy under the tree. All of that is an ecosystem that's completely built out and ready for ICE vehicles. For the EVs, that ecosystem is nascent. So we're trying to figure out now, how well can we make sure that our clients, when they get into an accident, we're ready to get them back on the road as soon as possible. So we look to see how we can work with the valuators, how we can ensure that we understand the residual value of the battery after an accident. All of these things are going to factor in also with whether the financing institutions are willing to stand by electric vehicles. Because as you're aware, when you make a big purchase, like a car, most likely you're going to be financing it. When you finance a large purchase, the banks or the financing institution will expect that the purchase itself is going to stand as collateral. So they're not going to be willing to lend you the money unless an insurer is willing to insure that collateral and restore it in the event of an accident. So for us, we need to have an idea of whether we can restore it. Because if the financing institutions aren't comfortable with the insurer's ability to stand by these vehicles, it's going to also have a knock-on effect on getting financing for the vehicles. So we also, just to add to what Shaloop said about it is a regular product, but what we also wanted to do, where insurance is silent on a specific coverage, it doesn't necessarily give the consumer confidence that when they're in an accident, their specific risk will be taken care of. So what we wanted to do is explicitly speak to things like your charging stations being covered at your home, because we do know that while we are going to cover you for your third-party liability in driving, there are going to be other costs that extend and also other expenditures and assets associated with your electric vehicle purchase. So we wanted to make sure that the customer was clear that those were included in their coverage as well.
Great. So the coverage for the charging station is whether it's a residential charging station or say at an office, or if it's a collective, for example, at an apartment building. The insurance would cover any of those scenarios with the charging station.
Under your eCoDrive policy, your home charging equipment is also covered.
Okay.
So that is what eCoDrive will extend for as well. And we're constantly looking at the product to see how we can extend it to the risks that concern our EV owners.
Okay. It's a very interesting topic. In preparing for this, I was looking at EV insurance generally. I know that it's in its embryonic stages, so to speak, infant stages here, but they would have had a little more build out in other jurisdictions. And I saw where the EV insurance could be a little bit more pricey because the upfront cost of the vehicle is a little higher. And then you have components like the battery, which is so integral to the vehicle. I mean, it's a bit of an exaggeration to say the vehicle is the battery, but that's a driver of the vehicle. And so the ability to replace that battery, which they are now getting longer lead times on, etc. But, so that's very important as well. Are those some of the considerations that you guys take on the table when you're looking at the formulation of your policies?
Yes, with respect to pricing, one of the things we did was work closely with understanding the spare parts and timelines for getting spare parts in. And as there are more EVs on the road, there will be secondhand spare parts available. But what is going to be critical for us is that both our new and used car dealers manage their inventory in a way that there is a readiness to repair the vehicles and get them back on the road. All of those things will influence the costing of the insurance product at the end of the day.
Right.
And also the type of vehicle that you are purchasing.
Right.
There will be certain exclusions in what we are able to cover based on our understanding that these products are not readily repairable in the Jamaica market.
Okay, meaning the parts, the particular type of battery for that particular type of EV, like if it's I don't want to call a brand, but you have brand A, brand B. You might be able to get brand A replacements versus B. So you'll be willing to insure A versus B.
That's a good example. And again, not calling brands. We do know that in the market, some of the leading EVs and some of the first EV brands, they're very proprietary in their technology.
Right.
Which means that unless you have a specific dealer on site, it's going to be very difficult, even in a developed economy, to be able to get some of these without going to that specific dealer. And if that specific dealer is not available in Jamaica, it will be very difficult to ensure that we can give you the coverage you need to get back up.
Gotcha. Shaluk, you wanted to?
I would say similar to your research, in putting together our product, we spent a lot of time researching and liaising with our overseas partners. And like you've said, a big challenge that persons face when you're doing a comparison is that really and truly we do not do a like-for-like comparison. So we're comparing an EV car that may be, $5-10 million more expensive than another car, and so the insurance is more expensive. Naturally, the cost of the car is different, right? Also, a number of the cars also carry like a different horsepower, right? So the nature of the risk is also different, and so these are some of the things that we also took into consideration. The point around the battery is definitely a big component, right? Because essentially, you have EVs that there may be just one of that EV that's imported in Jamaica, right? So it's not necessarily a dealer car, etc. It's one car, and so what is the impact of that one car, that one battery going bad, and what's the impact of that on the overall insurance product? So these are some of the things that we definitely took into consideration. They weighed heavily on our overall design and our decision as to how we ventured into this space.
Okay, that's really critical. I was looking at a particular brand. You spoke about being proprietary. This one seemed particularly proprietary. They had their own insurance app for their car, and so people, but only in 11 or 12 states in the US, and so you would insure through their app, and they would decide on your insurance package based on your real-time safety habits, your driving habits. It wasn't just about the usual, let's say, age, you're a first-time driver, that sort of thing. It was, it was pulling in how much of a risk you were based on how you actually carried yourself as a driver. I don't know if down the road, down the highway, that would be something that our insurance companies would be wanting to look at. I know you can't speak for the sector. Maybe you can't even speak for your company. But what do you think of that?
But I think it's a good point, because the thing about EVs is that the technology is very advanced, right? And so you do have, it's very computerized. There's a lot of information and data that is available that will help to drive underwriting decisions. So I definitely believe that that's an opportunity where down the road you'll see more and more underwriters leveraging the data that is available in the car, right? In order to help to make decisions around, driver scoring and rating, etc. Because outside of EV, that's an area that insurance currently is venturing with, telematics, etc., where you're leveraging this data. It's just that with EV, it comes with the car. It's not an additional component that you're putting with the car. So I definitely believe that this is something that you'll be seeing more and more as we go down this EV journey.
Okay, great. And before I bring in these two gentlemen who are just sitting there wondering, I've not forgotten about you. We're coming to you. It's going to be all about safety in a minute. But I just wanted to ask, since we do have hybrids on the road, which obviously have insurance, is it that the EV insurance would be a step up in terms of cost considerations from a person who has, say, a Prius, Toyota Prius, I call the brand right there, but that's an example of a hybrid, right? Would that be a step up if you have an EV now? You're a hybrid driver, no accidents and all that good stuff, and now you're saying, I want to just go full EV now. Would that represent an increase for them in terms of the coverage cost? Generally speaking, I mean, if you have apples and apples, same type of car and so on.
Generally speaking, we wouldn't expect that to be the case. But again, because we now have to rate not just on the driver, but also on the vehicle, it's going to be, again, the type of car that you choose. And by and large, for all of the new car dealers, we have a good comfort level with their readiness for the market. I am sure Jason can speak to the fact that to bring a new model to market, you have to go through quite stringent requirements from your dealers.
That's exactly it. Yeah, I was just going to add on to what the two of you had said. And from the risk perspective, from both the insurance and from the man on the street, from a dealer perspective, before we bring in anything, even hybrids, there's a rigorous process that you have to go through with regards to the manufacturers, with regards to infrastructure, training, and our gentleman there can talk with regards to the safety and the training as well. I mean, unless you have a fully certified manufacturer, certified high voltage technician, you're not allowed to touch that vehicle. It's as simple as that. They won't even give you the vehicle. So from a dealer perspective, you have to have all of these in place to offer the service to your customers, as well as that safety aspect of it, because that's part of the sustainability of EV, is to maintain that safety aspect and maintain that vehicle, both for your customer as well as for the insurance people, because you can understand the risk. It's not, as you said, a gas vehicle that any, pardon the term, mega man under the tree can work on. It's just not that. One fault with that and it creates an issue down the line. So it has to be highly trained people. Obviously, ATL bringing in a lot of the brands, we have to fulfill those, and we have to do that right down to special quarantine rooms, to quarantine, to PPE equipment, to regular training, to having a certain staff complement that's trained on EV. So there's a lot that goes into it to protect us from those aspects. So from an insurance side, I can understand it can't be just the man on the street that's doing it. It can't just be anybody. And those one-offs that are brought in can pose a risk, because there is no infrastructure, there is no backup, there is no training. Hart, we have a close relationship with Hart, and we've had meetings with both them and some of the other institutions with regards to high voltage training, because it is so detrimental. You need the right people to work on the right vehicles. Then you're safe, then you're covered.
All right, great. I think that's a fantastic segue to the gentleman on my left, who have been itching to get into the conversation. All right, so the development of EVs obviously means a whole new set of protocols and approaches and so on. Kevin, talk to us a little bit about readiness to handle EV associated hazards.
No, thank you very much. The energy transition has brought about significant, unprecedented changes to how we respond to emergencies, especially motor vehicle accidents. I'm happy to see ATL here because before they started importing EVs, they were the first to engage us to say, hey, we are thinking strategically of doing this. We believe it is necessary to upskill your person so that they can aptly respond to emergencies. So the first training that the fire department would have benefited from it was through ATL before they started importing vehicles.
Right.
Shortly thereafter came Project EV, who too believe that as part of their corporate social responsibility, they too need to engage us to upskill our firefighters. What it means for us now is that we had to look at the adequacy as it relates to our personal protective equipment. We have to look back on our standard operating guidelines, our standard operating procedures, because what would have worked in the past for a normal combustion engine, the electric vehicle is a total different game.
Right.
But we are not new to electrical hazards because this is something that we have to treat with when we respond to structural fires, both in the home and in business facilities. So a simple photovoltaic system, they too have the lithium-ion batteries as part of their setup as well that we will have to treat with whenever we respond to.
As in solar.
Right.
I mean, I know y'all know what photovoltaic means, but I just thought I'd throw that in. Yes.
So it means, therefore, that we have to do continuous training, continuous research, make and update our SOPs, SOGs in order to respond to these emergencies.
You want to tell them what SOP and SOG?
Oh, my bad. Standard operating procedures, standard operating guidelines.
Yes.
So we are quite comfortable as it relates to our personal protective equipment based on the hazards that are associated with the battery. During a fire, we will have to change our mode of operation to respond using breathing apparatus. So this is a device that you have a air tank on your back.
Okay.
You have a necessary mask in place so that you don't inhale the fumes.
Okay.
In terms of crowd control, it means now that you have to get the crowd away. You know, normally you have a motor vehicle accident, you have a fire, curious onlookers. So based on our research, you have to get them further back away from the incident. Identification of these vehicles is very important. While you respond, you need to do a quick scene size up to look what type of vehicle is involved. So we know from the get-go that EVs and hybrid vehicles, just looking at the insignia of the vehicle, you can tell right away that this is an electric or a hybrid vehicle.
Right.
That you're treating with. The only challenge for us is that we're not there yet, like the internal combustion engine, so that you have ready access to crash vehicles so that you can do your continuous training, the continuous capacity building. But I think over time, that is somewhere that we need to be as a department because we need to know the setup where the batteries are. It varies from model to model. In terms of doing execution, where persons is trapped and need to be rescued, you need to know where to cut, where not to cut. Traditional combustion vehicle, you know, the A post, the B post, the C post, you have to be very meticulous now because you may be cutting into high voltage wiring that is part of the setup. So it really calls for a multifaceted approach
Yeah.
as it relates to standard operating procedure, personal protective equipment, as well as training.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I'm understanding you correctly, you say you would need to have access to more crashed vehicles to
Yes.
have a
To have a better appreciation, because with practice,
right.
you master your craft,
used-
and you feel more comfortable.
Right. That's kind of good and bad, though, isn't it? Like, you want some crashed vehicles. Like, it's good that you don't have them because it means people have not been crashing. Am I getting that
Well,
right?
the fact of the matter is, I wouldn't want to be cutting up a brand new Audi.
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody wants you to cut up a brand new Audi, especially the person who just bought it. But
So,
yes.
in other more affluent brigades, you see where the manufacturers send them to the fire department for them to practice on. I don't think we're at that stage yet.
But you never know. You could ask for an Audi. Hey, can we get a new Audi to just chop it up? I mean, whop whop. All right, don't tell them I sent you. But yeah, so I completely understand that, and that's important. You make an important point about knowing what you're doing when you're gonna go in to extricate somebody or operate any kind of rescue and so on. The role of first responders and emergency services, and you touched on that a little bit. I don't know if there's anything else that you want to add to that when it comes on to an incident, any kind of collision or something that happens with an electric vehicle. Are there some basics that first responders that you haven't touched on as yet would need to get into?
Well, I pretty much covered the basis. In terms of fire safety tips, that is something I believe we need to probably ventilate as soon as my other colleague weigh in the discussion.
All right, great. And so I would imagine that some of your training is courtesy of HEART. Right. So I don't know, Eric, if you want to talk a little bit more about how the training, the approach to training and what that means for first responders. Firefighters are one set of first responders, but I would think we have other first responders like police officers and so on.
Correct. Thanks again for being invited here to speak. The Art Trust NSTA actually have 3 institutions island-wide who actually conducting training in electric hybrid hazard management level 1 training, and these program is designed to deal with first responders. And first responders such as mentioned earlier, the firefighters, the Jamaica Constabulary Force at the moment, and we have also the Jamaica Automotive Association, JAA, in training currently. We also try to take a 3-pronged approach, because even though we have the first responders training as in electric hybrid hazard management program, we also have the maintenance aspect of the electric hybrid vehicles, which is at level 2, and we have the vehicle services and the replacement at level 3, which focuses on level 2 focuses on the technicians, as you speak about, sir, from ATL, and the level 3 speak to the advanced technicians. So we are trying to treat with the 3 key areas at the moment, since EVs are now on the market and EVs are here. We believe that first responders, technicians, and advanced technicians need to be trained concurrently to actually deal with the needs and the demands, to satisfy the insurance company having adequate technicians and first responders to be in training, to be certified and trained.
Right.
And all our instructors who deliver our program are certified.
Absolutely, the nation's training agency.
All right.
So talk to us a little bit more about the importance of maintenance for EVs. At one stage, I thought maintenance wasn't really an issue at all, or it's a very small, So easy. Talk to us about the importance of maintenance for EVs, including battery health checks, software updates. We know it's a more elevated type of technology. Can you address a little bit?
Yes, I'll try to address it the best way I can. In regards to maintenance of the vehicles, it's very important to maintain an electric hybrid vehicle to follow the manufacturer's specification, and that is very, very important. Also, we have to ensure that the owners, and that's another area that both the dealer of the vehicle and the owner, along with our institution, with our trainers, will have to have some sort of collaboration on, because you don't want when persons buy a vehicle out of excitement or, that kind of euphoria, not paying much attention to the maintenance aspect and when the vehicle needs to be maintained. Also, as it relates to safety of handling that vehicle as well, charging in terms of the timeline to be charging those vehicles when it is at home and not necessarily all night based on what I'm learning, and guided by the manufacturer's specification as to charging as well. Very, very important.
Okay, so it's not like your cell phone, you can just plug it in and go to bed?
Right.
All right, that's very important. Let me just share with you as well a nugget of information here. A key objective of the eDrive project is the upskilling of 200 first responders and 200 electric vehicle technicians with in-demand skills to support electric vehicle usage in Jamaica. As part of this mandate, Project eDrive has worked to develop 3, along with you, of course, NVQJ accredited training courses with Heart NSTA Trust. Most recently, 25 JCF members, and you did mention the constabulary, were welcomed into the electric and vehicle hazard management program for first responders. They joined members of the Jamaica Fire Brigade and other electric vehicle technicians. Okay, so thank you so much for that. In terms of maintenance, and I'm going to throw this out to anybody, not just to you. Jason, I don't know if you want to grab this one. I understand from discussions that while we don't have as many parts, so maintenance is not such a big thing, persons have to consider changing their tires a little bit more often than the internal combustion engine tires, because the weight of an EV is so heavy, it wears the tires more. Am I saying something that sounds remotely familiar?
A little bit, but just to touch on the maintenance itself. So the maintenance structure of an EV now becomes, as opposed to it coming into a dealership and having oil filters and oils and those sort of things changed, the maintenance schedule now, as per the manufacturers, is to maintain that vehicle from an EV perspective. So most of the traditional service is items that are stipulated to be checked by the manufacturer, which includes the battery, the cooling system for the battery, those sort of items. So it becomes more of a maintenance check than a traditional service, but it's to maintain that vehicle from a safety aspect and as well for the customer. With regards to the tires, as things change over the years, as we moved from conventional tires to run flat tires, there was a slight change in how long those last. Yes, there can be a difference, but another part of safety on the EVs is the batteries are generally designed to be in the center of the vehicle, in the floor plan. Okay, that now gives it a lower center of gravity, which statistically actually prevents rollovers. So that's one safety aspect of it. With regards to the tires, there is a weight increase, but you must remember, we've increased the weight from a battery, but we've decreased the weight of a motor. Because a conventional motor has a lot more components to it. Mm-hmm. So it's a trade-off. There shouldn't be a huge difference in areas like that. We also, as you've mentioned, we educate our clients, we train our clients, and when our clients are not doing those maintenance checks, that's what we're there for as a dealership. So while the vehicle comes to us, we perform all those necessary checks. The manufacturers also stipulate that the minute something is out of specifications, it gets addressed by the dealer, especially when it comes to EV. There's maintenance tests that are done on the battery, and most of the manufacturers nowadays have 2 different indicators in the vehicle, a state of charge and a state of health. of the
Okay.
battery. Because a battery, even an EV battery, has a cycle to it, has a life cycle to it. Most of the manufacturers give a warranty on the batteries of between 8 and 10 years, some a little bit more, some maybe a year or less. But there is a life cycle of the battery. And most of them now give an indication in the vehicle of the state of charge as well as the state of health of the battery. Those also then get checked every time it comes into the dealership. So the manufacturers have put everything in place to increase the longevity of the vehicle, the battery, as well as the safety aspect, so that our clients and people using the vehicles make sure that they are safe in those vehicles.
Okay, this is very interesting. So for example, with the ICE vehicle, we're told you need to service every 3 months or something like that. You would think I wasn't a driver. I try, but you're supposed to maintain every how often, and not just when your vehicle stops with you. But for the electric vehicle, is there a standard you should go and do your servicing every X number of miles or every X number of months?
So every manufacturer has a manufacturer stipulated, and it runs off a kilometer reading or a time frame. Because you wouldn't think so, but parking your vehicle and not using it over a period of time, environmental factors will have an influence.
Okay.
Rubbers, oils, those sort of things. So every manufacturer has a time frame for their servicing criteria, as well as a kilometer reading. So either you're using the vehicle and now those need to be replaced, or you've left it standing and the integrity of those could be affected, so
Okay.
they need to be replaced. Each manufacturer is different in their stipulations. Generally, and depending on the region, and it is regional through the world, hot climate, cold climate, it makes a difference. But most manufacturers have a stipulation on the time frame, which gets put forward with each customer and is in each owner's manual in the vehicle.
Okay.
With EV, it's no different. And most manufacturers now, with it electronically wise, it's wired into the vehicle and it has an indication within the vehicle for you as the driver to say, hey, it's time for me to be checked out or time for me to be serviced.
Oh, okay.
And that
okay.
gets set regionally and gets set by the dealers, the manufacturers.
Interesting. Yes, Shaluk.
I just want to add that, I mean, so you have the maintenance component that operates from the dealer side, and there is also a burden of responsibility on the owner, right? So there is, I believe forums like this is very important as we move into this space because, for example, overcharging the battery, right? Overcharging the battery can create problems for the dealer, for the client, but it also impacts the insurance as well because these are things that may not necessarily is not tied to an accident or anything. It's more that you did not follow the manufacturer's guidance. And so it's important for persons to understand their own personal responsibility as a part of being a part of this new economy.
Okay, this is
And
quite
if-
intriguing. Yes,
And
yes, Commissioner.
If I may weigh in, as it relates to fire safety tips, one of the things we stress is regular inspection of the EV batteries to look for any damage, unusual signs for them to report to the manufacturer or a certified technician immediately. We always encourage persons not avoid your DIY, doing it yourself, when it comes on to repairs to batteries. Secondly, charging safety. That is something, as you mentioned, we stressed on, that EV owners should use manufacturer recommended charging equipment and follow the manufacturer's instruction for charging. That is very important because doing this, it can avoid using damaged charging cables or adapters. We would have an incident where an individual lost a car and lost their home because of this improper charging practice.
Okay.
So importantly, the wiring and the specification for the wiring and the certified persons doing it. We mentioned persons under the tree. I do ensure that they are certified and they know what they're doing because it can have implication for your safety, proper charging practice. One of the things we encourage is that you charge your EVs in well-ventilated areas. And we stress, too, that do not overcharge and leave it plugged in for extended periods because you can have overheating during charging, which can pose a fire risk as well. Parking, We stress that you should park your EV in designated charging areas or parking spaces. Avoid parking your EV over flammable materials or in tight spaces that may hinder emergency access. So, from time to time, if you have pets, you realize they love to go under the vehicle. You have to do your periodic check that there are not any loose wiring and all of that. And from them being under the vehicle, it don't impact the safety of your vehicle. Vehicle modification as well. Do not make unauthorized modification to your EVs, especially the electrical system, and include wiring or battery alterations. And lastly, we stress that you carry a fire extinguisher in your EVs and ensure that not only you, but your occupants as well know where it is located, that if they need the right.
Okay. Those are some really good tips. About the alterations, and I noticed you pointed specifically to battery and any electrical wiring, but sometimes we like super up a car still, want to put on spoiler and these nice things. That don't matter, don't it? Because that's just on the outside, right? That's not a problem, is it?
No.
Not that I super up my car. I'm just, quick disclaimer, it wasn't me. I'm just asking. Asking for a friend.
No, you can put the spoilers and you can put the decals and you can put the wings if need be. It's with reference purely to the high voltage circuit. And on all high voltage circuits, most of the circuits are indicated by a thick orange cable.
Okay.
That you don't touch.
Okay.
Cosmetically, it's just the same as any other vehicle.
It's the same cosmetically. And the eyes, the lights, people change the lights sometimes to some super bright or like some bluish. I'm sure that's illegal, isn't that? I'm sorry, it's not the police. I'm sorry. But I think it's illegal to have blue headlights. But would that be a problem? Because that's lighting.
So any vehicle that's under warranty, those become a problem. Okay, we're talking purely vehicles that have extended past the warranty period here. EV vehicle, although it's a high voltage vehicle, it has a conventional 12-volt battery system with it. So depending on which circuit it's running on, which generally the headlights would, unless depending on what headlight it is, that would be okay. We're talking in no touching, no modification, anything to do with the high voltage side of things. Because simply it'll kill you. That's the reality of it. By the same token, just to address the elephant in the room that everybody's talking about, the batteries, statistically, there's less fires from EV vehicles per 100 vehicles sold than by gas vehicles. And there's a gentleman from the fire department that can confirm. Gas vehicle has gas vapor, which ignites far easier than anything else. On an EV vehicle, the battery has to reach a certain temperature before you have combustion. Statistically, you get less fires in EVs than you do in gas vehicles.
Thank you.
I just wanted to put that out there.
That's a great point. Thank you for that. And yeah, definitely we do see the gas vehicles, well, more so in the movies, but yeah. So thank you so much for that point, which takes me to one of my last points. I want us to delve into a little bit more warranties, extended warranties, and so on. How do warranties with the EV operate? You get a new EV and you are smooth sailing for 3, 5, 10, I don't know, whatever the years are. How does it work?
So every vehicle, it works exactly the same as a conventional gas vehicle. Every manufacturer offers a warranty period, depending on the manufacturer, and each of those manufacturers also have different sections to their warranty. So there'll be a paint protection. Some manufacturers will give you a year's warranty on the paintwork, some will give you 3 years, some will give you 5 years. So there's different clauses and stipulations with regards to the warranty. But as a general, the warranty on an EV vehicle is exactly the same as a gas vehicle. Any manufacturer gives you a warranty for a period, and the onus, there's stipulations and terms to it, one of which being that it needs to be taken into the dealer on time, needs to be maintained and serviced by the dealer. And the reason for that is the dealer uses what's stipulated contractually by the manufacturer, so they know that the right oils, lubricants, whatever's being used is being used on the vehicle. so that they're prepared to offer a warranty on a breakdown, then they can say, yes, that is a manufacturing defect and it wasn't due to anything external being used, as well as for those checks that I mentioned. It enforces that for that period, they are 100% happy that those checks have been carried out by qualified people that keeps them as a manufacturer and the driver of the vehicle safe. So each manufacturer is different in what they offer in their warranty and their warranty periods, but for all intents and purposes, it's exactly the same as a gas vehicle. Any warranty that you would have got with a gas vehicle, that's what you're getting with
Would
an
get with
EV.
the EVs. Okay, great. Batteries last on average, what is it, 8 to 10 years?
Most of the manufacturers we've got, it's between a period of 8 and 10 years that they offer a warranty on it.
Okay.
Not to say that it'll last that period, it could last longer, but they offer a warranty of 8 to 10 years. So they're stipulating that they're pretty much guaranteeing in that period it'll last that period.
Right. And at
Just
the
the same as a cellular phone, as you made reference to. If I got my phone on charge and then I take it off and I make a call, and I put it back on charge and I take it off and make a call, it makes a difference to the life of the battery. And exactly what you were saying with regards to charging procedures and protocol.
Right. So at the end of the battery life of an EV, the owner would need to change that battery. There's no extension on the life. You have to just change it and go
Correct.
forward.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Would mean a replacement once it reaches that life cycle.
Okay. All right. Great. Great. So that was a lot of information. I'm sure you guys have your questions. You've been itching. Yes, sir. I don't even get to finish my sentence. Yes. I think I saw. Did I see a roving mic? No, it's fine. Go ahead. Hey.
So my first question goes out to Tibet. Will you guys be offering any training courses for installation of EVs, chargers?
Excuse me.
That discussion is ongoing, and as soon as we work out the kinks, we'll be able to promote that program and offer that program.
Okay. The next question will go to the insurance company, GK. Would you guys, if they offer a new program to cover the installation of chargers, will that affect the cost of the actual, like the pricing of doing an EV insurance?
I mean, so it really depends on the nature of the risk, or the residual risk following that, right? So if there is, currently, if you have a certified installation by JPS, etc., there is not an added cost, for that insurance. So generally speaking, if you have more persons who are certified who are doing the installation, then that does not increase the risk, it actually improves the risk. And so that's not something that we anticipate that would cause an increase in your insurance cost.
Okay, so you're saying it would probably pretty much reduce the cost if we were to...
If you have more persons that are certified that are currently installing. Yes.
So for your policies, would you say that a regular electrician installing the device, because they're certified, because it's a certified technician,
right,
would be installing in your home, right?
Right.
However, if you have a certifying body to state that these persons are certified to install EV chargers specifically,
right,
would it assist, would that be a mandatory part of the insurance side of it? So if you buy a car from ATL and you're going to install the charging system in the home for the person.
So the starting point right now is actually that you'd be certified to install the charging ports, right? So it's not any electrician that would be able to do the installation. So right now the expectation is that you'd have certified persons who are doing the installation.
Yes. Well, that's what I'm saying. Once you're a certified electrician, you should be able to install, because it's an electrical component. So you would be able to install. But this would have to be a specific license to say that, hey, you're specifically licensed to install EV chargers. You know the configurations, you know how to program, you know all the things. You'll be able to advise the customer, because a regular electrician don't necessarily have all the adequate information to provide the customer with safety tips and different aspects of it. If you were to have a full body training for something like that, then you would be able to advise the customers more.
So that would generally drive to improve rating just generally across the board, because what you're anticipating is that there'll be an increased safety,
Yes.
And as a result, the risk would reduce. And once the risk reduces, then that would materialize in the form of improved premiums as well.
Okay. And the fact that now you're moving from vehicles that used to put petrol in on the road, now the car is being charged at the person's residence. Would I have to take out now an insurance for my home, having that charger being at the house itself and not, it wouldn't be covered by the vehicle's insurance, would it?
So your home insurance, you see, if you have a home insurance policy, then the home insurance will cover it.
Yeah.
Right. So if you have home insurance, then definitely will cover the risk associated with charging at that point in time. If you don't, then you'd also want to have home insurance to
Okay,
cover
so
that.
you're saying pretty much with an EV vehicle, we probably would have to extend to having a home insurance coverage for your home as well as just as a vehicle.
If you're to cover the risk that you're talking about, right?
Would-
Because your concern is the home basically catching fire as a part of if there's an accident or an incident. That's
Yeah,
your concern.
yes, concern,
Right.
yeah.
And so if that is a concern, you'd want to ensure that the home is protected separately.
Okay.
What I would add to that is that if you are intending to do charging at home, that you declare that to your insurance provider so
Awesome.
that the
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah, so that there is a declaration on your policy that we are aware of this, because the last thing we would want is that there is an incident and we had no idea that this installation had occurred on the property.
Okay, and would that also incentivize the cost as well?
I think what it does is it gives us a proper basis to underwrite having all of the information.
Awesome. All right. Thank you guys so much.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Any more questions? Yes, sir. This gentleman right here, yes.
All right, so my questions, I have a few questions for Jason. The first one is because I recently started a small tour company. Does ATEL have electric buses, or do you guys plan to reach out to manufacturers to bring those in?
Yes, so currently we don't have anything in our fleet, but it is in future plans, yes. One of the brands that we've taken on has a commercial side to it, right up to trucks, not even
Okay.
buses.
Okay.
So it is in future plans. We would like to get obviously the infrastructure in and everything running smooth, and then we'll look at progressing to that. Small commercial, that sooner, and then bigger commercial later down the line.
Okay. Second question, what is, you may not be able to answer, but what is being done by manufacturers to reduce the risk of hackers hacking the computer system in the vehicles? As we know, these vehicles have more computer components than combustion engine vehicles.
So most of the manufacturers have put in place specific security protocols, just the way Apple would with an iPhone or Samsung. Obviously, it also comes down to the user as well, what the user is doing and allowing to be done. Just the same as your cell phone, if you're allowing sites that you don't know and so on and so on.
Okay.
But exactly that. So for all intents and purposes, it's a computer. So it has protocols in place, and it has set permissions in it for different applications and different things like that. Each manufacturer, from a privacy policy perspective, as well as protecting the vehicle, they have to ensure that they're up to date. We as dealerships and from the manufacturers regularly get cybersecurity training and what the latest updates are for all the manufacturers.
All right. And lastly, for you, are the current vehicles or future vehicles, based on your knowledge, do they have the capacity to charge in terms of the vehicles? Do they have solar panels or stuff like that to also charge the battery while you're driving, or no?
So currently, a couple of the manufacturers in other markets are working on that, using the roof dome with solar panels to put that back into it. Obviously, in Jamaica and Caribbean countries, it would be perfect. It's still in the production phase. There's nothing that's on the market per se to the public as of yet. Most of the manufacturers have the brake regeneration function, where when you're going downhill, it uses the braking system, kinetic energy, and regenerates and puts a certain percentage back into the EV battery. But from a solar perspective, I have seen a couple of manufacturers that have got it in play and they're testing it. Nothing commercially as of yet.
Okay. The reason why I asked that question is because, as we know, Jamaica is with the fact that we have sun right around, that would be perfect for vehicles. Plus, GPS, the electricity can go at any time current. So,
100%.
what's the backup plan?
So if you have a look now, we have a couple of gentlemen that deal with charges and electricity in the room at the moment. There's a lot of talk, and I'm sure they're looking into it, and I've been looking into it, that you can actually get the destination chargers, the roadside chargers, that are solar powered. So that charger in itself is completely off grid.
Okay.
And I think that's where it's looking to as well. For eventualities like that, and we live in a sunny Caribbean, it doesn't make sense not to look at it.
Yes. My last question would be for the insurance representatives. Will there be driver discounts if there is data given to you guys that the driver is safe over a period of time?
We will always offer safe driving discounts. It's usually in the form of usually after a while, as you accumulate years of safe driving, you get a larger and larger no claims discount. So we do offer no claims discount, and that's standard across all types of vehicle policies.
Great. Thank you so much. That was very informative. I see a hand at the back here. The mic is coming to you, so that, thanks.
Ones that you currently have now for the traditional vehicles, would that be transferred to an electric vehicle, or would you start from scratch if you're using an electric vehicle?
No, absolutely. We would honor any no claims discount that you have if you are an existing client, or also if you come over from another insurance company, we would also honor your no claims discount.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think just to add to that, it's important to remember that you're the client first, right? The car that you drive is secondary, and so if your driving habit, etc., would have what rewarded you with the no claim discount that you currently have, and so switching to an EV vehicle would not cause you to lose any of the benefits that you'd have amassed over the period of time.
Great. I see a question right here.
Good afternoon, everyone. My question is 3 parts. So first for the ATL gentleman, and I'm new to this whole EV. So you drive your EV car to Negril or Portland, right? And there are no commercial chargers. How do you charge that vehicle to get back to Kingston?
So most of the EVs come from the manufacturers, and there are external suppliers, where it's called a travel charger.
So you do have a charger in the car?
It's a slow charging, so it doesn't charge at the rate that the commercial ones do. But yes, they call it a travel charger, an emergency charger that comes with the vehicle, that fits in the trunk of the vehicle, so you have that access.
Okay.
Currently, though, there is quite substantial access already with infrastructure. But
I do like your answer, because then it leads to my second question for Shalouk and Joel. So we spoke about, I think the major risks for insurers is fire, overcharging of the battery, and the house burning down, etc. So if I go to one of these places and there is no commercial station and I have to use this personalized charger and it causes a fire, have we landed if this is now becomes a part of the third-party limit of liability of the car? If I burn down your home and you don't have a port, and so I'm using my personal charger in the car, have we made a decision on that?
So, well, before we get to that point, as a part of the GKI policy, you actually do have roadside assistance where you can get a tow truck to come and take you to the nearest, safest place to charge, right? So you do not need to expose yourself or your colleagues to that risk. So our encouragement generally is to maintain the manufacturer's guidance, right?
I hear
So,
that. But if I have an EV car and I have a personalized charger, the car come with it, my first thing is not going to call the tow truck. I'm going to try and charge this vehicle myself.
but the risk would not be the same as a home installation charger. That would be a certified charging port, and so it would be safe.
Just if I may as well. So most of the chargers nowadays, even for conventional vehicles, are what we call intelligent chargers, where they actually monitor what the amperage and the voltage of the battery. So it's not a case of, and I don't know if people have that impression, that the charger just keeps charging forever. The charger is designed to monitor that, and when the battery is at capacity, the charger decreases the amperage that it puts out to charge the battery, and to either very little or switches itself off completely. So it doesn't just keep continuously charging. Public station, private chargers, the travel chargers, any chargers nowadays, it's only the older ones where it was just to switch it on and it just keeps charging. Nowadays, and all the manufacturers' chargers are intelligent chargers. So once the battery is full, the charger will shut off, or it'll bring the amperage of the charger right down to a minimum where there's no risk. There's no risk to the battery and there's no risk from fire.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have another question here.
Hi everyone, how are you doing? My question is, if a person decides to purchase a vehicle different from the manufacturer, let's say they imported a 2021 vehicle then under one of your brands that are covered, that vehicle would still be within the age of the warranty cover, but it wasn't purchased from you. Would that warranty still be offered if they come to you for repairs or something?
Generally not. It is manufacturer specific though.
Mm-hmm.
So there are some manufacturers and there's a process involved depending on which market it came from, the age of the vehicle, and the history of the vehicle. There are manufacturers, a couple of them, most of the manufacturers don't, because vehicles are manufactured region specific. So certain regions have different emissions stipulations, they have different criteria that they follow, and different accessories that work in those countries that don't work here. With that being said, the software setups, as the gentleman mentioned, the software setups and those sort of things in the vehicle and the programming, the background information of that vehicle is completely different in different markets. So some manufacturers do allow it depending on the market it came from, and there is a process where the dealer has to get all that information. It has to have a full service history with the dealer from wherever it came from, and be able to be proved, and then the dealership does all the testing on it. They put it forward to the manufacturer, and then the manufacturer will say, okay, we'll honor the warranty going forward. But as a general, I'd say no. They don't honor the warranty because they can't tell what's happened to that vehicle. They're taking on that risk, not knowing what's happened to that vehicle before it got you.
All right, thank you. And just something to add for you. EVs are something that I've been very, very, very interested in for years. So a lot of them, actually, you can set the charging range so it can charge up to 80% and stop. It just stops charging. Because most EVs, when it gets to like 80, 85%, it will take, if you're on a level 2 or a level 3 charger, it will take like half an hour from 20 to 80. Whereas from 80 to 100 can take all 4 hours. So they just recommend that you charge between 20 and 80. And as he said, a lot of the chargers are just like, they're intelligent chargers, just like your phone. When it gets to that point, it just stops charging. Even if it's still plugged in, it just shuts down.
Great, thank you. I see a gentleman at the back there who also has a question.
Not so much a question, but a comment. Hi, Delano
Sure.
Mighty, Evergo. I just wanted to point out, as ATL is also one of our partners, you mentioned 2 locations in particular, Portland and Negril. As Evergo, we are actually in both of those locations. Fair enough. No, man, that's perfectly fine. Currently, we have some 57, I think, installed chargers right across the country. So you should be able to get a charge wherever you are. Just pointing that out in response to a portion of your question.
Thank you so much for that. I don't know if the other side wants to make a point about their chargers. I'm not inciting anything. I'm just leveling the ground.
All right. I have one more question for Jason. All of my questions are questions I have because I'm interested in purchasing an EV and I'm trying to get as much information as possible. Currently, with solar panels, we know that they're very expensive for Jamaicans because of the high import costs and all of that. Now, for EVs, what's the cost of maintenance, being that the market is not that saturated with parts and all of that compared to combustion engine vehicles, where you can go to any parts store and you have unlimited supply of parts and stuff.
Okay, so as we mentioned earlier, the maintenance criteria changes exponentially. In a conventional gas vehicle, oil filter, brakes, rotors, those sort of things. Yes, EV's got brakes and rotors and wipers. Those are normal maintenance items. But all the other components that can have an effect on the engine, that now changes. So it's actually less of a cost. Us as the dealer, obviously, it's our responsibility to have those parts readily available and bring them in at the best cost we can. It is always advisable to use from the manufacturer, and I'll tell you guys why. There's a lot of stuff that gets brought in, and yes, there is a cost involved in it. But a lot of stuff, and you can hear I'm from South Africa. In South Africa, for example, a lot of stuff gets bought in at a cheaper price. But it's filters and those sort of things that are bought in from another market. Now, in that market, that filter is designed to be changed every 5,000. In South Africa, the service criteria is every 12,000. So that filter is not designed. So you're buying it cheaper, but you're actually affecting and reducing the life of your vehicle. But us as ATL, any of the brands we've got, we're responsible for making sure that we've got all the items in, and if not, getting them as quick as possible. And just to add with regards to the chargers, ATL as a group as well, at all of our sites that carry EV vehicles, we have, with Evergo, put down, and the manufacturers put down chargers, and any of our clients are welcome at any time to come in and use those chargers. So our Montego Bay branch, we're busy upgrading it now and putting in additional chargers there. Our Oxford Road branch has got 2 fast chargers and a numerous other Porsche chargers and so on, which our clients are more than welcome to come and use at any time. If it's available, they're more than welcome to use it.
Yes.
If I could just add to that. Zachary Harding, Flash Motors. So Flash Motors had run a pilot project with JPS several years ago. We were the first entity to bring BYD cars into Jamaica. And we ran a pilot with JPS, and we tested and measured, etc. And it was basically a 40 to 50% reduction in total operating costs. So the point is accurate in terms of it's going to cost you less to fuel your car, because that's what a lot of people say. Yeah, well, I'm spending less on gas, but then I have to spend more on electricity. Okay, but for the same range, the cost of electricity is roughly 40% less than what you would have spent if you were to buy gas. Okay, and then also in terms of the parts, you're talking about 2,000 moving parts versus 200 moving parts. There's a lot less maintenance that's required. And it ended up in a roughly 40 to 50% reduction in total operating costs, EVs versus ICE vehicles.
Because as you've mentioned, that time period is also extended because you don't have a conventional gas vehicle. So certain filters and things like that, the period on that gets extended. As I mentioned earlier with the brake pads, because of the way EV uses brake regeneration, the brake pads are used in a different way, and they're designed to last a lot longer than conventional nowadays brake pads. So you're changing them at a further interval. So it also is a cost saving. So as you've mentioned, up to 40% saving.
Right, and typically what happens is that nobody keeps a track of the cost of gas. If I ask, how much did it cost you to fill up your car with gas for the month, most people wouldn't know. If I ask you what your light bill is, you know right away exactly what your light bill is. Okay? So, all right, so if you know no longer had to, let's say it's 10 grand a week to fill up your car with gas, but you no longer had to buy gas, you've saved 40 grand, but it might cost you 4 grand to fuel your electric vehicle, multiplied by 4, that might be 16 grand. So your light bill gone up by $16,000 a hole in your head, but you just save $40,000 on gas. You're better off.
Thank you. Well put. Yes, you wanted to.
Thank you. So just to say that, we also have Charge and Go, charging infrastructure across the island. Just need to make that plug as well. So we're supporting the fact that public charging is definitely something that we see, even as JPS, as a very important part of the growth of the sector. But I wanted to throw something at the team as well. One of the things we think is a big area that we want to really promote is fleets. So, we're considering urban transportation where you have taxis. We think that that would be a very cost-effective option for those kinds of transportation models. My question is there any particular consideration for insurance for fleet vehicles? So if I wanted to have a small fleet and I've begun to see them, I see a couple of courier companies that have started to use EVs. Is there any special consideration in terms of insurance and even on the safety front for persons who are interested in transitioning their internal combustion engine vehicles to fleets? And certainly we're also trying to promote even up to the buses, right? So small, you begin to get to the larger public, mass transportation options. Just talk just a little bit. I just need a few comments on that front, as we're really trying to also encourage electric vehicles in that area.
We have interchange fleets. We do cover EV fleets within GA. I think one of the most important things we try to do as insurers is to try to understand the risk management of the companies that we insure. So if you are going to be bringing in a fleet of vehicles, we would want to know that you are following best practices. How are you charging them? Are you charging them in an open space? What is your maintenance like? Very often when companies have fleets, they do a lot of internal maintenance. And we would just want to make sure that whatever maintenance you're doing in-house is aligned with your manufacturer's warranties, and that you are going to the manufacturer for the big items, and just your overall care and control of these vehicles is managed properly, and also that your drivers are aware. When you are an individual who is purchasing an EV, you're going to go online and you're going to do the research and you're going to get comfortable with this vehicle that you're driving. Mm-hmm. When you're in a fleet environment, you may wake up in the morning and your boss tells you, take the car and go on the road. Mm-hmm. We need to know that there's a certain driver protocol for who is driving your fleet vehicles, and that you are managing that properly.
All right, great. Thank you so much. I know I had a question right back there.
Audrey, just one quick question here. Well, I'm not even sure how to address this concern or question too. But what I'm looking at is 10, 15 years time when we're ready to dispose of these EVs. What type of regulations are we going to put in place now to ensure that people don't leave their old EVs at the side of the road that will kill people and that sort of thing? How is it going to be addressed? Is anybody talking to the government about it?
Okay, so I don't have the answer to that question, but I don't know. Sure, go.
Okay, I'm going to attempt this. The reason why is we operate in other markets. So I spend a lot of time in other markets that are probably 10, 15 years down the road with EVs. So I can give you an idea of what it looks over there. So, right here, Bajan accent. So, when I am working in Barbados, and they've had a longer time with EVs, what you see are a lot of markets that support the EV industry come up. So take, for example, the batteries. When the battery life comes up, there are secondary uses for the batteries. So when they're no longer used for mobile use for transportation, they may be used to power neighborhoods. They may be used to power cook shops. They may be used in, say you have a construction site and you just want something just powers the site manager's trailer. Those are the things that we're seeing from qualified, certified, secondary uses. So that's where your training is going to come in, because Jamaica has a very entrepreneurial culture. So without a doubt, as soon as these gaps come in the market 10, 15 years down the line, and even some of the older ones, you're going to start seeing other cottage industries spring up that are going to start taking use of these byproducts of the EV market. So there is use and there is value, and what we hope to see is entrepreneurship step up to fill in some of these gaps, both with the disposal and the recycling of these products.
So if I may also, as you can see, ATL's been in collaboration with a lot of people in this room, so that we get it right and we can service our customers and do it right. Currently, there is no stipulated regulation, but from a manufacturer's perspective, there are stipulations. So us as a dealership have to have a safe disposal policy. We're in collaboration with Tropical Battery, where there are special containers that we had to procure for those batteries, and those batteries then get transported to a disposal site in the US. So from an ATL perspective, we have to have that in play right from the word go, not 10, 15 years down the line. Because should something happen to a battery in the interim and we need to replace it, we need to have that option available. So governmentally, we haven't seen anything that's law and stipulated, but as a business, that's part of our responsibility.
And just to make a quick comment on that, as JPS, we, and a number of us as stakeholders are in that stakeholder engagement with the government. So the EV policy that was recently released has articulated that the government intends to work through mechanisms actually to deal with battery management, how you deal with that vehicle when it actually comes to end of life in terms of the battery. So we're anticipating that there should be a lot more information around that in the very, very near future. So just wanted to say that it's not something that is not under consideration. There's actually a path that is in play now just for it to be operationalized.
All right, that's great. Yes. How are we doing for time? The gentleman right at the back.
Hi, sorry if I missed it, but I just wanted to please indulge me for a bit. The question on the insurance of second-hand electric vehicles, because I recall that there was an article published in a major newspaper a few weeks ago that one particular insurance company decided that they're not going to insure second-hand vehicles. So I crave your indulgence. If it was mentioned before, please forgive me. But could someone please comment on that in particular?
Well, I mean, I can only comment for GKI where this is concerned, not necessarily an industry standpoint. So we do provide insurance for EVs, full stop, right? The requirements are the requirements, and the stipulations as we outlined, safety, etc., those remain. But if it's a brand new or dealer, issued vehicle or a second-hand vehicle, we provide the insurance for it.
Thank you very much.
I just have a follow-up question based on the one that you raised. In instances where an electric vehicle meets in an accident, do the insurance company repair it? So I put in a claim, the damage is X. Do we repair EVs and put them back on the road?
So essentially what you have is a process where that is concerned, right? The first point being that, as we're at the point of infancy with a number of these vehicles. So if it is a situation where, let's say this is a solar vehicle, this one of its kind that was imported in Jamaica, etc., then the insurance company is not taking the responsibility to, take that car and repair it and put it back on the road. As the person who bought the car, you have a responsibility to ensure that the car is repaired. You'll have to verify and have it certified that this is properly repaired, especially in relation to battery safety, etc. And upon getting that certification, then we'll be able to allow you to reinsure and continue on your path. The path would possibly be very different when you have dealers who are now in the space, who are providing the service. Now we'll be able to authorize the dealer to go ahead and do the repair and once again certify that it is properly completed, and then we'll be able to continue with your insurance coverage.
I was hoping for a no.
It was a leading question.
And that you would say, Jamaica Fire Brigade, here is an EV. Practice on
Keep trying. and I think Jamalda wanted to speak about the second-hand insurance as well.
No, just to say that General Accident will also insures second-hand vehicles. Of course, we care about the brand. We will do our own internal risk management, and there are exclusions in essentially where something may be too proprietary for us to be comfortable with. But by and large, we will insure second-hand electric vehicles.
Great. And for what it's worth, I'll throw this in. You had asked a question about going all the way to Portland or Negril, as the case may be. Recently, there was a myth-busting tour that Project eDrive undertook. They drove a BYD and a BMW iX1, and they went from Trafalgar Road to Montego Bay and back without recharging, without topping up. They started off with full charge, came back. And they went with an ICE as well, internal combustion engine, Subaru. I'm only calling the brand so that you have an idea of which vehicles were involved. And it's on their page anyway, it's out there, which vehicles were involved in the tour. So they were able to go, come back. With change, as you would say, they still had charge left on their batteries. So if it's a trip to Portland and back, you should be okay. I can't speak to going and circling the town a couple times, but I'm just throwing that out there so that you know these are some of the things that actually exist at the moment. You're welcome. All righty. So I think we are, and we're doing good for time too, right? Excellent. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's been fantastic having you here. I don't know about you, but I learned so much. And it's really been very, very useful. I must tell you once again that Project eDrive is the collaboration of the JPS Foundation and the IDB Lab funded by JPS, and it's all about promoting and helping to facilitate the promulgation of electric vehicles across Jamaica. We want to say a very, very, very special thank you to our panelists, Shaluk Richards, General Manager, GK General Insurance, Jamalda Stanford Brown, Business Development Officer, General Accident Insurance, Kevin Houghton, Deputy Commissioner, Fire and Rescue Operations at the Jamaica Fire Brigade, Eric Nelson, Director Principal at the TVET Engineering Cluster, Hart NSTA Trust, and Jason Quaroni, After Sales Manager at ATL Automotive. And of course, to you, our guests, ladies and gentlemen, what would we be without you all here? This wouldn't be happening at all. So thanks to everybody who has participated. Thanks to the media for being here. Ezzy Ram, as usual, members of the media, JPS family, our guests. Have I left anybody else?